There was one night last summer when I was putting Elior, our 4-year-old, to bed. And we were reading books and getting ready to sing songs before saying Laila Tov. And in this lightning-fast moment, he reaches past me and smacks the wall. And when he took his hand away, there was a dead mosquito plastered to the wall. And I was pretty impressed. One, because he was so quick, and two, because I hate mosquitoes. So I was like, nice job, buddy. And then I said, let me go get a Kleenex so we can clean that up. And then he said, no. And I said, no? And he said, no, Tati. Leave it there. I want the other mosquitoes to see what happens when you try to bite me. Evidently, my toddler had turned into a brutal medieval military despot when I wasn't looking. But I reckoned that dealing with that would have to happen in the morning. And so at that moment, I just wanted him to go to sleep, so I said Laila Tov and let Vlad the Impaler get some rest. It's a very peculiar aspect of human nature that we use the events, the stories of life, even if those stories are not our own, for the purposes of education. We have a built-in proclivity to learn from examples. Logic is one thing, deduction and reason is one thing, but example, that makes it feel real. And sometimes we go a step further. Not just acknowledging an example, but making an example. Changing the essence of someone or some thing's being to represent a dire warning. A public display of punishment or discipline. A good Baba Misa or old wives' tale to prevent unwanted behavior. Or a smashed mosquito against a bedroom wall. It's effective. It is. Except when the message isn't quite clear. Then it's not a great warning, but it makes for really great Torah, which is what we are presented with this morning in our parsha, in Achrei Mot. Because Achrei Mot translates to after the death. And after the death of whom? Go ahead, say it out loud. After whose death? Achrei Mot? Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, who we read about in just a few weeks ago in Parashat Shmini. And the very first pasuk, the very opening verse that we talk about this morning, gives us the mosquito on the wall. It gives us the example. So I'm going to invite you to turn in your Eitz Chaim, into the red book in front of you, to page 679. And together we're going to read that very first verse, that verse that Sloan taught so beautifully about earlier as well. On page 679, that first verse reads, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe, the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, who died when they drew too close to the presence of the Lord. That's it. That's the example. And we know that it's an example because throughout the rest of Jewish history, Nadav and Avihu are not known for anything else other than this specific incident. They become the example. But here's the crucial question. The example of what? What's the warning? And now I need my Hebrew speakers, because the English translation adds a really crucial word to this pasuk that isn't there. Anyone know what it is? Except for the people who were in Timely Torah with me this morning where we talked about this. There's one English word added to that translation in that verse that's really crucial? Any guesses? Presence. Interesting. Okay. Who died when they drew too close to the presence of the Lord. That's a great answer. That is definitely right. The presence of the Lord, whatever that means. I'm thinking of another word, a small word, a short word that might seem insignificant but is actually really crucial. The word is too, as in too close to the presence of the Lord. That word in the Hebrew isn't there. There's no idea of drawing too close. It says they drew close to God and died. So what's the warning? This may shock you, but the rabbis of our tradition have lots of different opinions about this. And I'm sure you've heard some of them. There's some opinions that Nadav and Avihu brought a korban, brought some kind of sacrifice or offering that was avodah zarah, that was idol worship. They said that they bring a strange fire, something that was not a normal offering, and therefore they're punished. There's other traditions that say that Nadav and Avihu were drunk when they did their offering. And because they approached God intoxicated and not in the right frame of purity and mind, they were punished. These are different interpretations, but in this verse, in this specific pasuk that we're looking at together, the pshat, the most literal interpretation of the text, is that they died because they were close to God. And that is problematic. It's problematic. Because being close to God is not supposed to be a bad thing or a dangerous thing. It's supposed to be the best thing imaginable. What could be better? What could be holier than being close to God? Well, in that long tradition of differing rabbinic opinions, there's one interpretation that really stands out to me. It's put forward by some of the more mystically minded rabbis of the Middle Ages who posit that Nadav and Avihu did not, in fact, do anything profane or inappropriate or somehow against God. Quite the opposite, they argue. In their interpretation, which admittedly is a radical departure from the more traditional views on this story, Nadav and Avihu were actually paragons of holiness and devoutness. They were so focused on drawing near to God, holier than our patriarchs and our matriarchs, even Moses himself, that they dedicated every second of their existence to the unio mystica, to the goal of becoming one with God. And in what seems like the pshat of the story, they reach the goal. They transcend the world, this life, and they get so close that they cease to be. They become one with the divine, and they're gone. But here's the amazing part. These Jewish mystics who themselves spend so much time trying to draw close to God suggest that this union, that this transcendence, is the mosquito on the wall. It's truly amazing because when we think of the mystics and religious traditions, that's kind of what they are. That's kind of their MO, is that they're the outsiders who focus on their individual pursuits of going beyond this world and raising up to meet the divine. But these rabbis are using the story to loudly warn against that very endeavor. And actually going a step further, saying that this act, becoming one with God, was the real sin of Nadav and Avihu. And why? What's the sin? According to these rabbis, the sin is al tifrosh min hatzibur. The sin is an abandonment of the community. An abandonment of the community for the sake of ego. Because Judaism is not about escaping this world. It's not about transcendence or reaching some spiritual beyond. Judaism, defiantly and proudly, is about being present in community. It is about facing this world, not running away from it. It is about sharing in all of life's complexity, its goodness and its blessings, and yes, its challenges and its pain. Together. Together. Nadav and Abihu's sin is that they left the community for their own pursuits. Our job as Jews is not to find our personal path to heaven. Our job as Jews is to bring heaven down to earth so that all of us can feel the presence of the divine in our lives. So that all of us, Jews and non-Jews alike, can feel those attributes of holiness that we sang about throughout Passover. That we may walk through each day beautifully aware of compassion, kindness, mercy, and love. Our job, our work, is by definition an act of selflessness. An understanding that life is with people. That love and blessing is only possible when our life is shared. It is who we are. It is the beating heart of our existence. And it is why, Sloan, my friend, that it is so important that you are here. Because celebrating you becoming bat mitzvah is a blessing not just for you and for your family and for your friends, but for this community. It is a gift that you give us. And it is why Alice, where are you? Where did you go? I lost her. It is why, Alice, there you are. That it is so important that the recognition of your work, of your dedication to your clients, to helping people with their speech is a public act of appreciation that we, this synagogue family, get to take pride in. That one of our own, that our sister is making this world better. Your recognition is a blessing, is a gift to us. And to all of you who are here this morning, for whatever reason you are here, out of support, out of friendship, out of obligation, out of habit, or because you just love being in shul, whatever it is, you are engaged right now in the holiest act of all Jewish tradition, which is being together. That's the holiest act of all Jewish tradition. It's so holy that someone's calling in to be part of it right now. It is good to pray. It is good to learn and study, but the greatest act, the greatest gift that we can ever give to the divine who has given so many gifts to us is to find one another, is to sit with one another, to hug one another, celebrate with one another, cry with one another, and give our hearts, our tears, our whole selves to one another. The mosquito on the wall of Judaism is trying to do it alone. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Sloan. And thank you, Alice, because it is a blessing that you are sharing your simchas with us. Thank you to those of you who are saying Kaddish or who are struggling this morning, because it is a blessing that you're sharing your grief with us. And thank you to those who are here because you are just always here, because it is a blessing that you are sharing your life with us. It's not a sin to wrestle with this world, to want it to be better, to wish it to be better. But to get there, we can't run away. We can't avoid, we can't isolate. We can't build walls or tear down bridges. The work is hard, the day is short. But together, we can make that work mean something. Together, it is holy. Shabbat shalom.